Hi, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today I'm answering your questions about academic standards. What are they? How are they different from objectives? And how do we use them to build objectives and plan lessons in our classroom? Let's get started. So I received a few questions on a video I did a while ago about lesson planning and using objectives. I'll link it up here. It is one that a lot of people have watched and have liked. So I will link that up for you. But one of the questions that I thought was really good was from probably a new teacher. And she asked, what is the difference between objectives and curriculum? And I've got all these things going on in my job, and I don't know how to distinguish among all these different things: objectives, standards, curriculum, activities, instruction, right? So I'm going to go through all of that today. But the first thing we need to do is figure out what are standards and how do we use them to become highly effective teachers in the classroom. So let me break down just a few fundamentals really quickly. First, standards are written by the state. So what they do is they get a group of teachers, and sometimes they bring in other people from the community, and they build their academic standards. Now, typically, there are sets of national standards set by the government with the help of teachers and administrators and curriculum specialists and education researchers. And they come in and they build national standards. And then what the state does is they either adopt those outright or they bring them into their state and kind of modify them slightly so that they reflect the state. Remember, education is left to the state. So it's going to be your state academic standards that you are going to be teaching to, depending on what state you're in. I live in Florida. Florida has its own standards. They are modeled after the Common Core standards, but they did add a few extra standards, I believe, in calculus and in handwriting. They wanted to make sure cursive was being taught, so they made sure to bring that back into the standards. But it is basically the Common Core, just modified, and they call it the Florida standards. New Jersey has its own set. Hawaii has its own set, but a lot of times they are modeled after the national standards. Now, standards are the overarching skills that students must acquire before the end of the year. So these are kind of like long-term goals, and I'm going to show you an example of these. But this is supposed to guide your instruction, activities, and curriculums, the books you use, the worksheets you build, the tests you administer, the curriculum. It's supposed to guide you in that area. Now, we'll talk more about curriculum in a second, but standards are like the benchmark, the pillars. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get students to master these academic standards before the end of the year. And typically at the end of the year in English language arts, civics, math, whether it be elementary math, or as you move through high school, it'll be algebra or geometry, end of year exams. They will assess these standards by giving students one of those big standardized tests at the end of the year. So if you are a fourth grade teacher, you know that your students have to take an ELA, an English language arts standardized assessment at the end of the year. And it has reading on there and it has writing, probably a little bit of grammar as well. They might also, depending on your state, have to take a science assessment, a math assessment. So those assessments are aligned to the state standards. It is a state test. It's aligned to the state standards, and the state sets those standards because education is left to the states. Each state is in charge of its own standards, academics, teachers, all of that. Now, we do have federal things that go on in education, but for the most part, education is determined at the state level. Now, as a teacher, you're going to want to look at your academic standards for your grade level and content area. Now, it's very easy. All you have to do is Google your State Department of Education website and their standards. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it by using an example today. So just give me 1 second. We'll get there. But you're going to want to pull up your standards for your grade level and content area. So if you're a third grade teacher, you're going to have to pull up the ELA standards. You're going to have to pull up the math standards because you teach everything, science and social studies. And your district might have it all laid out really nicely for you. Your district might have something on their own website with a curriculum map, an academic plan where it shows you exactly how to map out these standards. Most districts have that. And again, I will have a look and show you where to get those if they are available. If not, we have a lot of tools that we can build our own academic plan. So don't worry. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But be sure that you locate your academic standards, grade level, and content area. Then once you have the standards, you now know what you are responsible for the entire year. But we don't teach the entire year. We teach one day at a time, right? So we have individual lessons on each individual day, right? And those lessons might span 1 or 2 days, 3 days, maybe even a week. But within those lessons, we want to make sure we are aligned to those state academic standards. And the way we do that is we build objectives. Now, objectives are smaller goals. So the state standards are the big overarching goals. The objectives are the incremental goals to get there. And they're much more nuanced and much more specific. So you'll take an academic standard and you might write 3 or 4 objectives for that standard that are a little more specific. Again, I'm going to show you an example in just a second. The curriculum is how and what you use to get to those objectives and those standards. So the books the students read, the way in which you teach it, any kind of ancillary materials, worksheets, anything that goes with your classroom to help you teach that information, that is the curriculum. And then the instruction is you, the teacher, determining, okay, I'm going to do whole group to explain this. We're going to work in cooperative learning to do this. We're going to do individual work. I'm going to walk around the room. That's the instruction. So starting from the top, academic standards, overarching skills, what the students need to know by the end of the year. And there are a lot of them for each grade level and content area. We're going to show you in a second. Moving on from that, underneath that goes the objectives. What do students need to know today by the end of this lesson or by the end of this week? Sometimes lessons go a little bit longer than just one day. You know that. You have to do it a couple of days, which is fine. Under that is, what are the things I'm going to use to help them do this? What assessments am I going to use? What workbooks am I going to use? What books am I going to use? That's the curriculum. And then the instruction is, I'm the teacher. I'm about to deliver all of this information either through a PowerPoint, a textbook read, a worksheet, a cooperative learning activity. That's the instruction. All right. So that's how it works top down. Now let's have a look at what the standards look like and how to build objectives, lesson plans, activities, and all of that to help you in the classroom. So this is the Common Core state standards for English language arts in social studies. I just chose this because social studies and ELA kind of mixed together. There will be a lot of English language arts standards in social studies because we are reading primary and secondary sources in social studies and things like that. And I'm using a 6 through 12 standard here. This is the Common Core. This is for the whole country. Now, your state probably has developed standards for this based on these, and yours say New Jersey state standards or Delaware state standards or Texas state standards, but they all kind of align to this major document here. So you can see this is for 6 through 8, cite specific textual evidence to support analysis of primary and secondary sources. As we get up to grade 10, you can see here, cite specific textual evidence for primary and secondary sources. And then we have attending to such features as date and origin of information. So we got a little more complex because we moved up a little bit. We went from 6, 8 to 9, 10. And then we've got this little extra here for grade 11 and 12, connecting insights gained from specific details to an understanding of the text as a whole. Now, these are the overarching skills that students need to have. These are very general. This is end of the year. This is big idea. This is a big goal. We get more specific when we write our objectives. So I'm going to take this particular standard here from the Common Core, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write me 3 objectives. All right, so you can see up here, I say, please provide me 3 learning objectives for the following standard. And I put the standard down here. And then I say, please have the standards progress in complexity from 1 to 3. So I want their rigor to increase. Definitely check out my video on Bloom's taxonomy for more information on this because I go through this. But I basically want each objective to get more complicated as the day goes on or as the lesson goes on. All right. And it says, okay, here you go. Objective 1, this is basic comprehension. This is starting out the lesson. Students will identify and cite textual evidence from primary sources to answer basic comprehension questions about the text. Notice it took this general standard and got a little more specific, not super specific, and I might say to answer basic comprehension questions about, and I might name the text we're reading that day. So it could be, from the textbook pages 1 through 10 or something like that. You could be even more specific. Objective 2, now we're getting a little bit more up in the rigor analysis. Students will analyze primary and secondary sources by citing specific textual evidence to support their interpretation of the author's perspective or purpose. So now I'm not just answering basic questions, I'm getting into the mind of the author. And this is like what we do in ELA. This is an ELA standard. So we've got our ELA, our English Language Arts hats on. If you're a math teacher or a science teacher, this is not your jam, but just kind of input your own content area there. It would be like, we will analyze algebra problems to solve for X, something like that. For science, we might analyze the structure of a molecule and how it functions. It'll just be progressively harder there. And then now we are into critical evaluation. Students will evaluate the reliability and relevance of textual evidence. So now we're giving students some information. We're saying, is it reliable? And is it relevant? And if not, why? If so, why? We're using both primary and secondary resources. And then we're going to actually cite specific areas to construct a well-supported argument. So not only do you say this, but why I'm going to ask you as a teacher, what in the text or what in the lesson or what made you come to this conclusion, which is going to make it much more robust. Okay. So there are my 3 objectives. Notice, overarching goal is the state standard. Objectives are the smaller goals to be acquired at the end of this specific lesson. Now, I thought, well, let me just do this for the teachers. Can you provide me 3 classroom activities to help students master these standards? This is why I love ChatGPT, you guys. And here it goes. Guided source annotation. This is a great activity. Whole group. The target is the basic comprehension. That was that first objective here. And this is what we would do. I'm going to model how to read and annotate primary and secondary sources. I'm going to model this. That's great. It even has things I'm going to ask. What is the main idea? What is being described? It gives me all this. And the goal is students gain foundational understanding of how to create and locate textual evidence. All right. Now we have cooperative learning. I love this one. I did not come up with this. ChatGPT did. Source detective teams. How interesting. The target objective is the analysis part. That was number 2 here. Analysis right up here. And then divide students into small groups. Their task will be to work and analyze the source. Now, I love this cooperative learning source detective teams here. And I like the activity, but let's say I want to have like a worksheet that students have to like fill out or something. And I don't have time to make a worksheet. Here's what I'm going to do. Cooperative learning activity, source detective team. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to say, can you, I always say, please make me a worksheet to go with the activity you provided above. And then I'm going to paste this activity in because I want to make sure it has the right thing. There we go. Here's a worksheet. Boom. Group members. It's got all the things here. Instructions. All of the questions here. Where they're going to quote the textual evidence. Look at this. 5 seconds. All by using the standards and the objectives. And I can even go in, like I'm going to copy this and put it in a Word document, put it on my Google Classroom or whatever. But, it's all working here and I can modify it if I want to ask a few other things. But look at this. This gives them the accountability they need for that group work session, which was right here, source detective teams. And then independent activity is evidence-based writing assignment. Now, these activities are the instruction. This worksheet is part of the curriculum. Right? Because we're using things to build that instruction. Curriculum and instruction are kind of used a lot interchangeably. The curriculum are like the books and what you use to convey the message. The message is the instruction. So look at what I did here with just ChatGPT. I took the overarching standard, put it in, asked for objectives, put it in, asked for activities, got even more specific, asked for a worksheet so these students would be held accountable in their group, and it gave me everything in less than 5 minutes. Love it. Now let's have a look at some different standards and how you find them. So let's just say I'm a New Jersey teacher. You may not be a New Jersey teacher. I'm just using New Jersey as an example, okay? And all you have to do is Google. Let me go back to Google here. Hang on. Try that again. All you have to do is Google New Jersey academic standards, Delaware academic standards, Texas academic standards. That's all you have to do. Click on it, and you'll see that you have the standards right here. Now, I might be a science teacher. So let's go to content areas here. Science. And you can see we've got all of these different standards here. Things to read about the standards here. But over here on the right-hand side, we have K5, 6, 8, 9, 12. I'm going to choose 9, 12 because I was a biology high school teacher. So let's go ahead and have a look at these. Now, these will be modeled after national standards. There are national science standards, but you definitely want to check the ones for your particular state. And in this case, it's New Jersey. Now, let's just have a look at the disciplinary core ideas. So PS in science means physical science. LS means life science. And there will be others. Let's see. ES is Earth, ESS, Earth Space Science. Okay. And ETS is engineering, technology, and application of science. So you've got a bunch of different things going on here. The codes, they're important, but just when you understand your standards better, this code will jump out at you. This is life science. This is the big idea. 2A is more specific. So, you can see here, LS2 is ecosystems, interactions, energy, and dynamics. That's kind of overarching. Then we get into A. All right, we're talking about the interdependent relationships. B is cycles of matter. C is ecosystem dynamics, functioning, and resilience. Notice it gets a little more specific as you dig down, but this is where you find those standards. And this is where you kind of have an understanding of what you are responsible for the year. You can copy and paste these into ChatGPT and it can spit out an academic plan for you. Play around with it. It depends on what district you're in, but this will really help you to understand what's going on. All right. Now, one thing I just tried to do, find a curriculum map for a random school district. I did Camden County Schools. This is in Georgia. So I clicked this. And when I did, it takes me to their curriculum. And then over here, this is their curriculum department. I used to work in the curriculum department in Florida, Lee County. And I did this. I made curriculum maps. And you click here for state standards. When you do, it'll take you into here. And I'm going to just, let me zoom in a little bit. Mathematics, more information. And as I scroll down, I did a Control F for map. So just do Control F and click map. And you can see there it is, K-12. Mathematics curriculum maps. Let's have a look. This is the first time I'm looking at it with you. Okay, so this school district actually sets it all out for you and it gives you your structure. So if you're a new teacher and you want to know what all these letters and things mean for your particular state, go ahead in here, download this presentation. Is this hot? Oh, it is. I'm like, that's not much of a curriculum map. Okay, so you can see you're going to click on these for your curriculum map. Let's go to 8th grade and I'm going to open that link. And when I do, you can see that it's going to take me to a bunch of other links. Hang on. And here we go. So this is the curriculum map. Now, again, this is crazy if you're a brand new teacher. So you can see we have semester 1 and semester 2. So they're breaking it up by semester for you. And then we have, unit 1 is going to take 5 to 6 weeks. All right, this is a big one. There's going to be a lot. And you can see here are all the standards. It's a lot of standards. You can see week 2, analyzing systems of linear equations. That's 3 to 4 weeks. And you can see there's only a few standards there, right? Look at all these standards and then look at all these learning objectives. And you can see the objectives are the further down you dig in a standard. So let's go back to that really quickly. You can see that here's the standard. Here are the objectives, although I like to build objectives more into like the student will understand the structure and function. Students will determine how growth and development affects organisms. You want to kind of build out that language a little more, and that's where ChatGPT will help you. you could just go and look up this standard and throw it into ChatGPT and say, for this particular standard, you're going to do a lesson, could take 2 or 3 days, because it's going to take 5 to 6 weeks. You're going to have several days of lessons here, and write that out for you. And then it's got the whole thing. Now we're in semester 2, same thing. So this is what a curriculum map is, or an academic map, or an academic plan. And you can see they've got all of the standards here. They've got some objectives. You can see the 3.2, they're calling these objectives, but I would probably build this out even more. I would probably ask ChatGPT to take this from low level to high level, and it will write you 3 objectives that progress. So use this, but even develop it even more. And you can see it's all right here. And again, it's confusing, but what we're focusing on here are the skills. What do my students need to do to be successful? And that's what this maps out. All right, so I know that's a lot of information in a very short video, but I have a book called Teach, a Survival Guide for New Educators. And in it, I talk about standards, objectives, and how to use them in the classroom. And I also have a course called Teach, a Survival Course for New Educators that goes with this book. And I have a whole module on how to use ChatGPT to build your lessons, objectives, identify your standards, all of that. Let me show you where to get these resources if you're interested in taking it to the next level. All right, so this is my website, KathleenJasper.com. And under online courses, you can see Teach, a Survival Course for New Educators. Just add that to cart and you will get all the videos that I talk about how to do this if you're a video learner, if you like to watch videos and learn that way. Beyond that, I have the Teach a Survival Guide for New Educators on Amazon. And beyond that, I have Teach a Survival Guide for New Educators on Amazon. You can see we have a lot of 5-star ratings and people really love this book. They've taken pictures of it with the book. And even I've gotten some fine reviews from veteran teachers who love this book. This is really for new educators, but a lot of veteran teachers like this book, and I am so thrilled about that. So this will help you with some of those basics, lesson planning and things like that. You can get it on Kindle Unlimited for nothing if you have that subscription. You can get it in paperback or you can get it on your Kindle, and it's all right there. You can check it out, and I will link everything up in the description below. All right, if you're looking for more, remember I have a book and an online course. They are in the description below. Please feel free to ask me any questions you have in the comments. This is where I get ideas for new videos. I got this idea from a young woman who asked me about standards. It was a really good question. She's probably new at teaching, and all of this stuff just gets jumbled in your mind. Real quick, I didn't know what a standard was until 3/4 of the way through my first year of teaching. An assistant principal came in and said, "You are teaching the standards, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I had no idea what standards were. So you are not alone if you don't know this stuff. I will go over more. Please ask me any questions you have in the comments, and it'll be my pleasure to help. Have a great day.